Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am so excited to have you join us today. My name is Linda Williams, and I am a community outreach and training manager with Consumer Action. And on behalf of the entire staff of Consumer Action, and in honor of Hispanic Heritage, Breast Cancer, and National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I would like to welcome you. Today, today's webinar is all about tools, resources, and free multilingual materials that you can share with the communities you serve. Today, we will provide you with an overview of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or CFPB, its purpose, how to access this free multilingual material. We will have a discussion about the CFPB's Housing and Security Campaign and emergency rental assistance resources, how to access tools, resources, and materials for older consumers, service members, and veterans. And we will also learn about the CFPB's free activities to help children ages 6 to 18 build those important skills they need to manage money into adulthood. Presenting today, we from the Office of Financial Education, we have Ms. Carmen Cruz and Ms. Leslie Jones. From the Office of Mortgage Markets, Ms. Jessica Reed. From the Office of Consumer Education, Ms. Matiki Reed. From the Office of Older Americans, Ms. Caitlin Kramer. And from the Service Members Affairs, Mr. Nelson Akuridulu. And again, Ms. Jones from the Youth Financial Education Analyst. So break out those pens and paper and buckle up. This webinar is going to be totally awesome. Now, before I get too excited, let me go over a few housekeeping items so that you can enjoy the webinar. As the announcer stated, you are in listen only mode, but you can use the question function on the right of your screen to type in your questions. We love hearing from you. So at the end of the presentation, outreach trainer Nelson Santiago will facilitate a question and answer segment. This is where we get to hear from you. So take a minute, find that function, and send Nelson a ton of questions. The webinar is being recorded. It will be made available to you along with the PowerPoint slides our presenters are using today. Now, at the end of the training, this is very important. You will receive a survey about today's webinar. We value your feedback as we work diligently to improve our service to you. So if you have a comment, a suggestion, or even a compliment, we would love to hear from you. So please complete the surveys before signing off. And as a bonus for attending today's webinar, you will receive a complete certificate of completion. Now, before I go any further, let me tell you what's happening at Consumer Action. We are turning 50. Consumer Action will be celebrating the big 5-0 on November 16 with a virtual change maker convening with Michelle Singletary as our keynote. Now, if you haven't had the pleasure to hear Michelle Singletary, you are in for a treat. It is going to be a blast. So help us celebrate our birthday. Please go to our website and register to join us on our very special day. So I'm going to go over the agenda really quickly so you know where we're heading in today's webinar. At Consumer Action, we believe in making learning fun. So we open up each and every training by testing your knowledge on the topic of the training with our most popular game, How Much Do You Know? So today we teamed up with the CFPB to bring you 5 true or false questions. Following the game, I will introduce you to our guest professionals in the order that they will be presenting. A question and answer session led by Nelson Santiago will follow. I will come back, tell you how you can donate to Consumer Action, and wrap up. So let's get started with the game. Let the game begin. Let's launch the first question. Homeowners don't have to pay for housing counseling to avoid foreclosure. Is that true or is that false? Is it true or false that homeowners don't have to pay for housing counseling to avoid foreclosure? Don't overthink it. Come on, don't overthink it. All right, let's close the poll and let's take a look at the results. Wow, 72% thinks that's true and 28% think it's false. Well, let's ask the CFPB if this answer is true or false. CFPB?
Great. This is Jessica Russell at CFPB. It looks like 72% of you got this right. That is true. If it is regarding avoiding foreclosure, homeowners do not have to pay for housing counseling. It is available for free. And actually, if they are getting requests to make payments up front, that actually might be a scam.
Great, thank you, Jessica. Let's move on to the next question, true or false? Emergency rental assistance funds can be used for unpaid utilities. Wait a minute, that's a great question. Is that true or false? Emergency rental assistance funds can be used for unpaid utilities. Is that true or false? Come on, don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. Okay, let's close the polls and look at the results. Wow, 76% of you believe that is true, and only 24% think it's false. Wait a minute. Let's ask the CFPB if this is true or false.
Hi, this is Matsuki Reed. It is true. Those funds can be used to pay for rent that's unpaid, can be used to pay for unpaid utilities, including internet access, can also be used to pay for unpaid or future moving costs if you need to go ahead and get a van or get a truck or something like that because you're actually moving to a different location.
Wow, that is great. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Thank you, Ms. Reed. Let's move on to the next question. The CFPB has free resources for consumers 3 to 103. Wait a minute, 103? Is that true or is that false? The CFPB have free resources for consumers from 3 to 103. Come on now, is that true or false? Don't overthink it. Okay, one more second. Okay, let's close the poll and look at the results. Wow, 84% of you think that is true, and only 16% think it's false. Well, let's ask the CFPB if it's true or false.
Hi, this is Leslie Jones with the Office of Financial Education, and I'm happy to say that it is absolutely true. We have bookmarks for your little people, books that you can read to them, and we also have lots of placemats and other things for older crowds. So we can't wait to show you those today.
Great, thank you, Ms. Jones. Let's move on to the next question. True or false? Financial abuse can impact older adults in many ways. Wow. Is that true or is that false? Wow. Is that it? Okay, let's look at the results. Wow. 100% of you think that is true? Well, let's ask the CFPB if it's true or false.
Hi, this is Kate Kramer from CFPB's Office for Older Americans, and 100% of you were correct. This is true. In addition to any financial losses, older adults can experience many other negative impacts of elder financial abuse, and that could include things like reduced access to health care, reduced eligibility for public benefits, challenges with physical and emotional health, or access to housing or credit, changes in their ability to retire, or even a shortened lifespan. So it's really critical for us to do what we can to prevent and respond to elder financial abuse so that we can avoid these harms and promote the financial well-being of older adults in our communities. So I'm glad that you all are already thinking about this topic and you all got it right.
Thank you, Ms. Kramer. Okay, let's move on to the last question. Okay, true or false? The CFPB only has materials in English. Come on now. True or false? The CFPB only has materials in English. Is that true or is that false? Wow. Okay, let's close the polls and take a look at the results. Wow. 1% thinks it's true. 99% of you think it's false. Well, let's ask the CFPB if it's true or false.
Hi, this is Carmen Cruz with the Office of Financial Education here at the CFPB, and you guys are right. That is absolutely false. The CFPB has content in more than just English. We have Spanish, Chinese traditional and simplified. We have Korean, Vietnamese, Tagalog, Arabic, Russian, Haitian, and at times we have things in Amharic. So we definitely have materials in different languages other than English.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Cruz. And thank you, audience, for playing the game. I hope you enjoyed the game and I hope you learned something. So now let's move on to our featured presentation. Let's move on to our featured presentation with our very first guest speaker, Ms. Carmen Cruz. You just heard her answer that question, but let me give you a little bit of background on her. Carmen became part of the Founders Club when she joined the Bureau on August the 1st, 2011. She started her career as an investigator on the mortgage team in the Division of Consumer Response. In April 2014, Carmen joined the Office of Financial Education, where she created the Bureau's translations process for consumer-facing materials. She also led the project that created the Bureau's first Spanish and Chinese-style guides and glossaries of financial terms. Carmen is currently the Bureau's translations manager, which include managing the translation process and budget. She is part of the financial education outreach team and library. Welcome to the webinar, Ms. Cruz. Following Ms. Cruz, Jessica Russell. Ms. Russell will be presenting on the housing insecurity, uh, and she will give you a presentation on that. But first, let me give you a little background on Ms. Russell. Jessica Russell is the Mortgage Data Access Program Manager at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau in the Office of Mortgage Markets. She runs the Market Monitoring Program, combining qualitative feedback with data to understand trends in the mortgage market. She also co-lead content creation for homeowners portion of the Interagency Housing Hub. She has worked at the CFPB since 2012. Prior to her time at the Bureau, Jessica was an economics consultant, building analytical models for complex business litigation cases. She has an MBA from MIT and a BA in economics from Mount Holyoke College. Welcome, Ms. Russell. Our next speaker will discuss the emergency rental system resources. Please welcome Ms. Martha Q. Reed. Let me give you a little background on her. Ms. Reed is currently a product management specialist, serving as a product owner for the CFPB's Housing Insecurity Campaign web page. She has over 20 years experience working on web products in either a product management, designer, or developer role. At the CFPB, she worked across consumer-facing products, practitioner, and educator-funded resources and research-oriented interactive tools. She holds an MBA with a specialization in IT management, and she received a BA in English with a computer science minor from the University of Pennsylvania. When not working at the CFPB, she enjoys spending time with her 2 kids and 2 cats, serving as an elder in her church, gardening, knitting increasingly ambitious items, and making improvements to her 98-year-old home. Welcome, Ms. Reed. Caitlin Kramer will follow Ms. Reed. Let me give you a little background about Ms. Kramer. Caitlin Kramer is a policy analyst with the Office of Older Americans at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Ms. Kramer focuses on age-friendly banking, financial technology, elder financial exploitation, and protecting people living in assisted living communities and nursing homes from financial abuse. Before joining the CFPB, Ms. Kramer worked with older crime victims as a project director of the Elders' Rights Center at the Area Agency on Aging of Palm Beach Treasure Coast. Previously, she worked as a legal service attorney with a focus on family law, guardianship law, bankruptcy, and consumer law. Ms. Kramer holds a JD from Boston University College of Law and a BA from the University of Tulsa. Following Ms. Kramer would be Mr. Nelson Akuridulo. He serves as a consumer response specialist in the Office of Service Members Affairs at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. In addition to consumer response, he helps coordinate the Office of Service Members Affairs Director Service Member Outreach and New Media Engagement. He is a Marine veteran with more than 20 years of experience in strategic communications and marketing in the military and private sector. Welcome to the webinar. And our last speaker, is Miss Leslie Jones. Miss Jones is a youth financial education analyst at the CFPB. She is a former business teacher, instructional designer, curriculum supervisor, and developer. She advises on the benefit of K through 12 financial education and the challenges of incorporating personal finance topics into K through 12 courses. Leslie is a certified business teacher in Virginia. She has a master's degree in instructional design and development from George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, and 2 bachelor's degrees, one from Bowling Green State University in Bowling Green, Ohio, in marketing education, and the other one from Lake Erie College in arts management and sales. Welcome, Ms. Jones. Now, without further ado, let me turn the webinar over to Ms. Carmen Cruz. Carmen, give me a minute and I will give you control. Ms. Cruz, you have control of the screen.
Good morning. Before we start our presentation, I am going to just read this quick disclaimer, and this is for all of the presenters today. This presentation is being made by a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau representative on behalf of the Bureau, but it does not constitute legal interpretation, guidance, or advice of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Any opinions, views stated by the presenter are the presenter's own and may not necessarily represent the Bureau's views. So with that, we'll keep going. It's not. So let me just give you a little bit of information about the CFPB, is what we are called in the government world, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It's a 21st century agency that helps consumer markets work by making rules more effective, by consistently and fairly enforcing those rules, and by empowering consumers to take more control over their economic lives. At the Bureau, our mission is to aim is to make consumer financial markets work for consumers, and for responsible providers and the economy as a whole. Here at the CFPB, it is our goal to contribute to all communities. In the United States, there are over 41 million immigrants in America, and many of whom prefer to manage their money and conduct day-to-day activities in their native language. So at the CFPB, we are committed to using information from the Census Bureau and our consumer complaint database for us to determine which are the top languages spoken in America, and then we translate most of our materials into those languages. Some of the content topics and themes that we translate those topics into include mortgage, credit, debt collection, student loan repayment. We also have a guide to COVID-19 economic stimulus relief and many other topics, including mobile banking tips. These resources are available typically in English, Spanish, Chinese, simplified and traditional, Korean, Vietnamese, and Tagalog, and also Arabic. As I said earlier, the CFPB is committed to providing consumers with up-to-date information and resources on a plethora of things, and specifically with today's pandemic that's going on, we have been really committed to making sure that that Americans know how to manage their finances during this pandemic. The CFPB and other financial regulators have encouraged financial institutions to work with their consumers to meet their needs. We have created a central hub for critical content. Also on this website, you'll find coronavirus and financial resources from other government agencies, and you can link back and forth from this hub. The CFPB also has what's called our language pages. And if you see here on the slide, up where this yellow ribbon is, there's a bar and it shows our top languages that we translate into. So again, you have Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Tagalog. We have Russian, Arabic, and French Creole. The CFPB has many print publications that you can bulk order for free. And you can go to this website here. Well, this link here is promotions.usa.gov/CFPBpubs.html. And you can order the publications. On the site, you will see that there is, oops, how did that go? You will see on this landing page, you'll see like right here in this yellow box, there's a drop down. And you can choose which language you would like. And then once you choose that language, it'll show which publications are offered in that language. And you can order those. And again, it takes 3 to 4 weeks for delivery, but they come packaged nicely. All you have to do is open them up and put them on your shelves and they're ready to go. In most cases, you can order up to 200 free copies. But if you have anything that you may not need, maybe 200, you can also order 25. So you can order as many as you'd like. Another thing that CFPB offers in other languages are audio files. And what we did here was we took 6 of our most ordered brochures and we translated them into the 8 most popular languages at the time. You can go to our website and you can see there's an audio icon and you can listen to that particular brochure either online or download an MP3 file. One of the offerings is understanding your credit or check your credit report at least once a year. We also have plenty of other materials, as I've said before, in other languages besides English. CFPB also has CFPB in Espanol, and you will see that on this landing page, the website is almost identical to our English offering. You will find our consumer tools, Ask CFPB, which is 1,100 financial FAQs, and we have those in Spanish as well. And then also you can see where you're able on this particular website where you can lodge a complaint. So you can submit a complaint. Now, when you're submitting a complaint, it will be in English, but if you have a need to submit a complaint in another language, you can call into our 1-800 number and you will get someone that they will connect you to like a language line, and there will be a translator on the line for that. And in the introduction, Ms. Williams introduced our glossaries, talked about the creation of our glossaries, and we are very proud. In 2015, we created a glossary of financial words and terms that we frequently create content and use these financial words and terms in Spanish and Chinese. Last year, we expanded that glossary from 250 until 1,200 financial words and terms. And we did that in partnership with other federal agencies like FHFA, the FDIC, the IRS, the FTC, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, GSA, and the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. We combined all of our glossaries of financial words and terms. And then we also, the FHFA helped us to expand those glossaries from not only Spanish and Chinese, but we also offer them in Vietnamese, Korean, and Tagalog. And you can use these. These are definitely not guidance. These were created for a tool. So anytime you want to create any type of content for financial terms, you have a list of different words and how those are translated. And we did some user testing to make sure that this translated well, and we got very positive feedback. So we encourage people to use those glossaries when they are creating content in other languages. One other thing that we have that we're pretty proud of is our newcomer guides to money managing. And again, knowing that we have many immigrants come to America daily, and we call them newcomers, these newcomers come without any knowledge of our financial system work and how it works. So we created 4 guides, which are translated into 8 languages that we have listed earlier. And the 4 guides are ways to receive your money, a checklist for opening a checking account, ways to pay your bills, and how to select financial products and services. These guides provide our limited English proficient consumers with information they need to make the best financial decisions for them and their families. And then another great thing that we have are these Knowing Your Rights brochures. The Bureau published our Knowing Your Rights brochures on lending discrimination, highlighting the protections of the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. And these are available in English and Spanish, and you can go to our website and know your rights when your credit discrimination is illegal, and helping consumers understand credit discrimination. Again, we just offer those in English and Spanish, but this is a really good, these 2 brochures are really good with when you're dealing with ECOA, which is, again, the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. Lastly, I'd like to talk to you about our Your Money, Your Goals resources. Your Money, Your Goals is a toolkit and not a curriculum. You use these tools to work with people in that moment. They're online resources, they're issue-focused booklets, and the booklets are 4 colorful booklets, I might say, that can help you address being behind on bills, debt, credit, and savings. We also have companion guides to these, and these companion guides are to address the unique needs of the Native communities, people with criminal records, people with disabilities, and the military community. And you can find that on our website if you go to www.your-money-your-goals/. And you can order these materials. They are shipped within 4 to 5 weeks. The booklets are amazing. They're very colorful. You can write in them. They're so easy to use. And again, when you're helping somebody with some type of, like, their bills or financial debt, credit, and savings, these 4 booklets are phenomenal. Actually, when we were in person and we would do a lot of our presentations and have our booths, they would go flying off the table. We never ever came home with any. So I would suggest you order some of these. And with that being said, I will hand it over to Jessica Russell.
Okay, so let me turn this presentation over to Ms. Russell and we give her control of the board, and she's going to discuss with us the COVID-19 Housing Insecurity Campaign. Okay, Ms. Russell, you have control.
Great, thank you so much. Can everyone hear me okay?
Hear you fine.
Great. Well, thank you so much. First, I really just wanted to start off today by thanking all of you on the call. We know you are working to help consumers navigate this pandemic, and we really are so appreciative of your partnership and excited to talk with you today. So, as was said in my introduction, my name is Jessica Russell. I'm from our mortgage markets team. And today I'm going to be talking to you about some of the protections available for homeowners and then some resources you can use for some of your clients. And then afterward, Matiki is going to cover the other half of that, which is for renters. All right, so let's get into it. There are a few different protections available for homeowners. The really big one is forbearance. And basically what forbearance does is it lets homeowners temporarily pause their mortgage payments if they've been affected by the pandemic. So they call their servicer, they request forbearance, and then they are able to pause their payments for some amount of time. The next protection, and we'll talk about that a lot. The next protection is around foreclosure protections. So the CFPB issued a rule over the summer to provide some additional protections and some procedural safeguards to help borrowers who are affected by the pandemic. And these rules went into effect at the end of August and are effective through the end of the year. So I'll touch on this briefly, but if people have questions, feel free to ask. And then the last one is the Homeowners Assistance Fund. So Congress authorized nearly $10 billion, which is a lot of money, for assistance with mortgage payments, homeowners insurance, utility payments, and other purposes. Now, I want to be clear, this is a different and additional pot of money from the emergency rental assistance, which you'll also hear us talking about. So 2 pots of money. This one is for homeowners. And I won't touch on that a whole lot because those programs are still kind of ramping up, but want you to know that that's out there. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about forbearance. So right now, borrowers can still request a COVID-19 hardship forbearance if they've experienced a hardship due to the pandemic. And for most loans, they really just have to call their servicer, that's the company they send their mortgage payments to, tell them that they're experiencing a hardship, and they'll be enrolled. Now, it isn't automatic. Borrowers do have to request it. They have to contact their servicer to do that. But it's definitely out there. And most, but not all, but most mortgages are eligible for this protection. And here, if your client knows what kind of loan they have, it's really helpful. If they have a government-backed loan, like a VA or an FHA loan, or if they have a Fannie or Freddie loan, they would be eligible for this. Now, if they don't, that means that they might still be eligible, and it's still probably worth calling their servicer, but they might or they might not. So it depends a little bit. Now, okay, so they decide they want to get forbearance. How long is this going to last? How much protection and help are they going to get? Well, typically it starts off with about 3 to 6 months of relief, and then people can request extensions as they need them. And that's really a way to make sure that people stay in touch with their servicer and kind of don't just sort of disappear and become hard to reach. And so for most loans, forbearance can be extended up to a total of 12 months, but some would be eligible for up to 18 months of forbearance, depending on when they first signed. So one of the questions we get a lot is like, how does forbearance affect my credit? And I totally understand why there's confusion around this, because it's really not a super straightforward answer, but hopefully we can shed some light on it today. So basically, to boil it down, the lender, the servicer, can report that the account is in forbearance, but the paused payments will generally not be reported as delinquent. And so if you were current on your mortgage before, and then you get forbearance and pause 6 months of payments, you will still be reported as current, but there might be a note on your credit report that says this loan is in forbearance. Now, that's really helpful, but if you sort of don't actually request forbearance and just stop making payments, obviously that'll negatively impact your credit. And if you're in forbearance, but you don't make arrangements with your servicer coming out of it, that can have a lasting negative impact on your history. And obviously, if you find an error, you can dispute. Another thing people should know on that kind of topic is that borrowers who get forbearance, they might have to meet a few conditions before they can refinance or get a new loan. And we've seen complaints about this. And so, for example, a borrower may have to sort of stop their forbearance plan and make some number of on-time payments before they're able to qualify for a refi. And we hear that a lot because rates are still pretty low and some people are interested in refinancing. So that's something to know about forbearance. And obviously, really important, check your credit reports. You can actually check them weekly for free until April of next year. And then it will go back to the normal annual. All right, so that's a little bit about signing up for forbearance. How many people have actually done that? Actually a ton. So we've had about 7.6 million homeowners that have gotten forbearance at some point during the pandemic. Obviously, most of them were early on back in sort of May of last year. And there are still about 1.6, and now it's even a little lower than that, million borrowers who are still in forbearance. And you can see that top blue line. So of those, sort of 1.6 million borrowers, a large number of them will be exiting forbearance basically now. And we've already started to see that even in the past, couple weeks and in the coming few weeks and months, but really right now, a large number of borrowers are exiting forbearance because if you signed up for forbearance right when the COVID pandemic started, you're going to hit that 18-month max basically right about now. So a lot of people are exiting, and it might be helpful for you to understand some of the key options for people when they do. So how do you get out of a forbearance? How do you kind of get back on track? There are a few different ways. Some of the most popular one is called a deferral or a partial claim. Colloquially, you'll just say it's putting it at the end. So you take your 6 months of payments, you put it at the end of the loan, and you pay it off when you sell the house or refinance, for example. And then you go back to making your same payment, or maybe a little bit more if you have an escrow, which may sort of increase your payment a little bit, but that's for people who've kind of gotten back on their feet. Now, some people may have gotten their job back, but it's at a lower income or something like that, and they need to lower their payment. One way to do that is a modification that changes the terms of the loan. And often what that will do, although there are different ways to do it, often that'll sort of extend the term of the loan, so it takes longer to pay back, but it reduces the payment so it's more affordable. And so that can be a good option for someone who isn't able to make their old payment anymore. I'll skip the repayment plan. Not a lot of people go with that one. Lump sum is an option. Not a lot of people do that anymore. And I will say it's rarely required. So if that's the only option that they're hearing, they should talk to their servicer and specifically ask about other options. And if it's still the only option offered, they should contact a HUD-approved housing counselor. So that's my next point, is that if a borrower is concerned about losing their home, definitely contact a HUD-approved housing counselor or a housing counseling agency. And when you go to our website, there's a link to do that. I'll talk about later on. And I will note that help is free. You do not have to pay to avoid foreclosure. And as I kind of alluded to in the Q&A in the beginning, one way to avoid scams is if somebody's asking for sort of payment before they even help you. Here we go. So just a couple quick notes. This is just some data that shows that most borrowers who have exited forbearance are back on track, but there are some who are delinquent. Those are those red and yellow slices there. And as I was talking about, lots of different options for exiting forbearance. The most common ones right now are deferring the payments, which are the yellow, and the modifying your loan, which are shown in the purple. All right, so here's where I'll just disclaim that I am not a lawyer, but we thought this might be interesting to some of you and wanted you to be aware of some of the protections available to help prevent avoidable foreclosures. So over the summer, the CFPB issued a new rule to help mortgage borrowers. It went into effect at the end of August, and it's effective through the end of the year. And I will note that a lot of the forbearance sort of guidelines only apply to government-backed loans, as we were talking about earlier, but these actually apply regardless of the type of loan, although there is an exception if the servicer is a small servicer. So it has 4 main components. I'm not going to walk you through all of them. The first one's probably the most interesting to folks on this call. And basically what that does is it helps ensure that borrowers have a meaningful opportunity to be reviewed and be considered for what's called loss mitigation before they're referred to foreclosure. So we want to make sure that there's enough time for borrowers to actually be reviewed before being referred to foreclosure, and there's certain steps that servicers have to take before they can initiate that. I will note that it would not necessarily apply if the borrower was already more than 120 days late on their mortgage before the pandemic started. All right, so now let's talk about the housing portal, because this is really kind of the part I get really excited about. So this is at consumerfinance.gov/housing. You can use that long link there, or you can just go consumerfinance.gov/housing. We have stuff for homeowners, for renters, for landlords. I'll talk you through some of the homeowner stuff. So like this presentation, the homeowners page really focuses on forbearance and walking people through, telling them what is forbearance, how do you request it, how do you extend it, and then importantly right now, how do you exit it? And as I said, on every single page, we want people to get expert help if they feel like they need it. We encourage them to talk to a housing counselor, and if they click that link, they will go to a page that helps them find one near them, and they can also, it also shows whether or not the housing counseling agency has resources available in other languages like Spanish, for example. Also a link to legal assistance. I think people always assume I can't afford a lawyer. Well, that might not be true. There may be free legal help available, and so we have a way to help people find a lawyer in their state. And then lastly, if they have a complaint, if they've talked to their servicer and it's not working out and they really have a complaint about the way it's going, they can complain to the CFPB. That's part of our job. And so we will forward that complaint to the company, and we will work to ensure that they get a response, usually within 15 days. And we have people who are monitoring those complaints to see what kinds of things are going on. So it's really important. It helps us because it helps us know what's going on, and it can help your clients because it can help them get a response if they're having trouble doing so or need help with that. And again, also, as I said, a lot of our resources talk about exiting forbearance because that's so key right now. So we've got a video about it. We've got that explains each of the options I talked about. It's got cool little graphics that talk through that. Those are available, Spanish and English. And we also have a page on avoiding foreclosure for people who, and that 4 steps to avoid foreclosure is a nice little handout, and you can feel free to download and use that. And the same with any of our resources. If you see resources that you want to use, we highly encourage that. It's really not plagiarism if you use it, and these resources are available for you. Lastly, I want to just note, if you have people who have a reverse mortgage and they want to understand what protections are available for them, we have a separate page that's about reverse mortgages, and we'll walk them through. And as I said, videos in English and Spanish. So with that, I will turn it over to Matiki.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Now to learn more about emergency rental assistance resources, I'm going to give the mouse to Ms. Reed. Ms. Reed, you have control.
Great. Let's see if this
Come
works.
on, Ms. There you go.
All right. It's going. Thank you all so much for listening then. As Jessica said, she and I are working together on the Housing and Security campaign. She has been instrumental on the mortgage and homeowners side of things. I'm going to speak to you a little bit today about what's going on in the rental side of the house for renters and for landlords then, and some resources that we have available for both of them. As Jessica mentioned, she was talking about homeowners and homeowners that were sort of at risk for foreclosure, then who were going into forbearance. We're having various different protections in place. In general, we have the statistic that over 8 million families are at risk of either eviction and foreclosure. If you do the math and you know that there's 8 million total at risk, and there's only 1.6 million who are going into forbearance and foreclosure, then that leaves 7 million households that are behind on their rent and at risk of eviction. It's something that the CFPB is very concerned about. We know that this is something that we need to try and provide the resources to people, resources to folks such as you, so you can provide it to those people. We're also aware of sort of the systemic things that are at play within our society then, whether it's related to folks who are limited English proficiency or speaking a different language other than English, or are Black, Hispanic, or other minorities within our society then, and making sure that we address those needs as well. We also know, and because of research that's been done external to the CFPB and research that we've done within our group then, that people aren't necessarily aware of what their options are when it comes to it, particularly on the rental side. However, there are protections that exist for them, but they need to take action in order to do that. Sometimes it needs to be complex actions. They need to fill out applications. They might need to work with other parties besides themselves where they can't do it on their own to do that. We want to go ahead and provide these resources so people understand what to do, where to go, how to get the help so that they can either stay in their homes or can move into a nice, secure next step to them. So we need your help in order to help boost awareness of this, which is part of why we're here today in order to talk to you. All right, I'm going to show you some nice, colorful graphs now. First thing we have here is renters. Renters are 35% of all US households. That is about 43 million households then. Of those, you can see that they're in the pink, you'll see the share of each folks who are renting their primary home. In the blue is what that amount was roughly 15 years, 17 years ago then. This rental population tends to be lower income, tends to be younger, tends to be more of minority populations rather than white populations. As you can see here by the graph, the smallest line that's on here is the white non-Hispanic line that we have. And in general, over time, all of those trends are increasing as to the distribution of demographics across this. Then. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about something called cost burden. Cost burden is when we say a household is cost burdened when it spends more than 30% of their income on rent and utilities alone. We then call them severely cost burdened if they're spending more than 50% of their income. You can see here that of folks who are extremely low income, they end up becoming extremely cost burdened because there is a discrepancy sort of between what the rentals are within the country and also how it aligns to folks who have lower incomes and what is available to them in various different metro areas. Now I'm showing you a graph here that's talking about that group of extremely low income folks then as a share of all households that we have, whether it's homeowners, whether it's renters then, or again, in the shaded areas, the extremely low income renters, particularly then. If you look at this then across each column being a different demographic, you'll see that Black, American Indian or Alaskan Native and Latino households are more likely than white households to be extremely low income renters then. Only 6% of white households are extremely low income renters then as in comparison to all the rest of those. Part of this disparity is related to the structural things that I've talked about with you that I'm sure all of you are aware of exist in our society here. That it's a result of higher home ownership rates, higher incomes around white households in general. But these racial disparities also exist upon just looking at renters alone. You'll see that there's a preponderance more of going towards Black renters than American Indian, Alaskan Native, or Latino renters then as well, having extremely low incomes. Then there's this here was talking about insecurity among renters by race. Then either folks who are not caught up in rent in general versus folks where eviction is actually likely in the next 2 months then, and the percentage of those who are behind on rent where that is. You can see here that there is various different amounts here in general that Black folks are having higher levels of insecurity then, again, related to the structural stuff that I've been talking about, then followed closely along by our Hispanic or Latino folks. And these are all information that we've gotten from charts of August and September then. So I've been talking a lot about renters, but we also have concerns about landlords then, especially small landlords. Small landlords are what we refer to for folks who have fewer than 10 rental units. It might be that someone only has one house that they're renting out. It might be a 2-flat or a 4-flat, or it's a small building complex then, but it's an important source of affordable housing in our country then. And very often these small landlords are also landlords of color then. So again, we've got that compounding effect with structural stuff as well then, where these same folks, the landlords, are also financially vulnerable in the same way that their renters might be financially vulnerable. You can see here then also the amounts of that it tends to be more Black and Hispanic small landlords that are having greater issues in comparison to the white small landlords then. And you see here that they're having more financial vulnerability if they're having a mortgage, relating very tightly to what Jessica was talking about earlier then, about what you might have to do and where you might have to go into forbearance for your rental property, in addition to or in contrast to what you have to do for your home that you live in. In general, small landlords have been struggling during this pandemic. We know this. We've seen lots of research about this. We have talked to small landlords at the CFPB. We know about where they've been pulling information from or pulling savings from and funds from in order to try and get through then, and all the different ways that they've been trying to get by, whether it's talking with some of their renters, discounting their rent in order to make sure they get some rent at all. If it's using credit cards, it's kind of surviving based on using credit cards, going through personal loans, doing all these different actions in order to try and keep themselves afloat and get their heads above water. So again, Jessica had spoken earlier about our housing portal that we have. You can see here that it offers resources for homeowners, for renters, and for landlords. It also offers it in all the different languages that Carmen spoke about earlier. So it's Spanish, Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Tagalog, and Arabic. And so we have all those things there where it's our interagency portal that we're doing in conjunction with a bunch of different agencies. Then I think we're actually on this slide, it isn't even showing that we're also in partnership with the Department of the Treasury as well, as we're trying to work together in order to pool everything we can from across government and provide those resources to people who are in need. Particularly for renters, in our renter section, we have step-by-step instructions letting people know what they can do in order to take action in order to avoid eviction, how they can get help paying for their rent, utilities, and other missed items that they might need assistance with, talking about repayment and how they can speak and have a conversation with their landlords about repayment agreements or catching up on unpaid rent, letting them know what their protections are, letting them know what their rights are as tenants, especially when it comes to debt collection, and then also helping them find help. Talking to professionals such as the one that Jessica was talking about earlier, whether it's housing counselors that might be able to help renters out, whether it's lawyers who they might be able to help with, anything else like that, or if they need to file a complaint because something has happened where they need to let people know that they need to go through and check and see and say, like, is this something where I'm being given incorrect information? And we have an entire page about what the tenant and debt collection rights are, explains to make sure that they aren't getting harassing statements or misleading statements by debt collectors then, lets them know what their state or local protections might be then. It's been recently updated in order to provide some of that information as well. Those the rights, there's special rights if there's domestic violence survivors, then especially when it comes to renters who are in this situation. And then just in general, there's freedom from housing discrimination that is applicable to anyone of us who is going through and has housing, whether it's mortgages or renters. But then there's also specific stuff that's in place for renters, and letting them know also how to go through and get free assistance through all of these different means. Again, same sort of thing that we have as far as resources that we have for landlords then, ways in order the landlords can go through and see how they can recover back rent, and we go through and walk them through how to go through our emergency rental assistance finder and how to fill out that application and how to find out where to go in order to fill out the application. Letting them know what all their options are and how it is that they can speak to their tenants, what they can say, what they can't say, various different options that they have as far as working through getting recovery of rent that way. And then also leading them towards thinking about forbearance if they need to pause their mortgage payments on their rental properties. All right, eviction moratoriums. So many of you know the Supreme Court issued a decision that ended the CDC's moratorium on the end of August that had been in place for much of the pandemic. At the same time, even though that federal moratorium on eviction has ended, there are many states and many local governments or cities that are providing the same or greater amount of protections on eviction. It's kind of ebbing and flowing. Sometimes the eviction moratoriums are in place and then they're expire and then they're brought back. So it's something that people need to kind of keep ahead and keep an eye on then, but it's something that it is possible. Just because the federal one is ended doesn't mean that there aren't protections out there for renters and that renters should be aware of then. There's also such thing as an eviction diversion program that many jurisdictions are going through and doing in order to try and make sure that people stay off the streets, that they stay in secure housing. Then we have something that the federal government still has and still has quite a lot of is the Federal Emergency Rental Assistance Funds, then also known as ERA. Now, we had 2 phases of this for a total of more than $45 billion. And much of that money is still available. Those resources are still out there in states across the country. They are distributed again by local programs then, whether it's a state or whether it's a county or a municipality. Most of them are taking landlord applications then. There's fewer that are taking it directly from renters then. Most of them take landlord applications, and in most instances, the landlord and the renters have to work together in order to fill out that application so that the landlord can then get paid. This money, again, can be used for unpaid rent. It can also be used for unpaid utilities, as we talked about in the sort of quiz that opened up our thing. And those utilities, again, include things as diverse as going through into internet costs or various other items like that. It also can cover future rent if they end up moving to another location, then perhaps with a cheaper rent, or if they end up going ahead and having the moving costs in order to move then. And those payments usually go directly to the landlords, to utility companies, or whichever company it is that is going ahead and instilling that charge then. We're going to talk a little bit more about the tool that we've gone ahead and developed in order to help this issue and this program in particular then. Again, we've been working with the Department of the Treasury on this, as well as with the National Low Income Housing Coalition in order to go through and make sure that this data and these resources are available for people, particularly because all of us have been doing lots of research and to see what's going on with renters, what's going on with landlords, what are some of the reasons, in addition to things that we're exploring at the state and local level, why folks might have issues picking up this funding. one of the first things we encountered was that people were unaware of emergency rental assistance. This was more of a thing, I think, earlier in the spring and in the summer then, when people hadn't heard about it yet. It wasn't so pressing. I think after the eviction moratorium ended, suddenly everyone started talking about it and everyone started trying to figure out a way in order to engage and get emergency rental assistance. And there's a lot of doubt that renters have about whether they're eligible for it. Should they even bother applying because they might not be eligible? What do they need to show? Especially if it turns out that they're on a visa or they maybe are undocumented, they have concerns about what it is that they might need to provide then. They want to know whether it's worth the trouble to go through all of that, knowing that they've got a lot of other things going on in their lives as well. They also might have some trepidation and some hesitation then if they need help from the landlord in order to go through and apply. And I have to say that in most instances, they will need help from their landlord to apply, that they'll need to work on it together with their landlord. However, it's in the landlord's best interest to want to work with them because the landlord would go through and get paid then for it. This is something that has come through on surveys that have been done by Avail and the Urban Institute. And it's also something that the CFPB has heard in interviews that our housing and security team has conducted with both renters and landlords. We've been seeing these exact items that are here on this slide coming through on both sides. So we have information on our site that is trying to provide some clarity around that, letting people know how they are going to apply, like what the actual process is for going through it, what it covers, whether or not they're eligible and what those different factors are. Then special living situations. For example, if someone is living in manufactured housing or living in some other situation, then that might mean then that they need to think about, or they're worried that they aren't eligible for federal rental assistance. We've gone through and looked through all of that and are presenting that on our site. Then you can go through and see, again, if you go to consumerfinance.gov/housing and then go to the renters area, you'll be able to see a lot of this information there. Again, as I spoke about then earlier, that renters are going to need the landlords for help as they're going through and applying for this. Landlords can also apply for rental assistance on their own if they wish to then. And if the tenants are eligible, then the landlord is also eligible in order to go through and apply. And that can cover up to 18 months of rent. So going back almost to the start of the pandemic then. And there still is time to apply. There still is time for landlords to receive help. There still is time for renters to receive help, to go through and make sure that they are covered then under the different programs then. We have here our Finder tool that we have developed then in order to help people find help with their rent, with their utilities. And you can get to it by going to consumerfinance.gov/rent-help. That's /rent-help with no space in between, no dash in between, anything like that. It's just all put together. It's also available in Spanish, so it's /ayuda renta that you can go to in order to see this tool where you can go through, put in your state. If you put in your state, you can then go through and filter it and narrow it down even closer to where it is that you might have coverage by filtering by county. And then it goes through and shows you both coverage under the state and under, if your county has a program, it will show you a county, and it might show you any municipalities within your county that might have a program as well. So we're going through, again, this is for back rent, it's for past due utility bills, it's for moving expenses. Then you also will go through and have the email addresses, sorry, the websites that you can go to in order to actually fill out the applications for assistance. And it is available in Spanish as well. And finally, I don't know if you were able to see that in the screenshots I took of everything, but all of the pages that we have across the housing portal we have right now, whether it's on the homeowner side of things or if it's on the rental side of things, All of them now have been fully translated and are available in all 7 of the Bureau's languages. So that is English, Spanish, traditional Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Tagalog, and Arabic. Then we also have videos that are also available in Spanish language across many different things. And we're constantly recording new ones, depending on what's coming up next in what information we need to share, what different policies need to be presented to people so that they are aware and so they're able to move forward and be more secure and move out of that insecurity space. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Kate now.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Reed. Now to learn more about initiatives, tools, and resources for older consumers and their families, let's turn the webinar over to Ms. Kramer. Ms. Kramer, let me give you the control. Just one second. Okay, Ms. Kramer, you should have control of the screen.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It looks like it's working. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kate Kramer, and I'm a policy analyst with the CFPB's Office for Older Americans. And my work is focused in the areas of age-friendly banking, financial technology, elder financial exploitation, and protecting people who are living in assisted living communities or nursing homes from financial abuse. Our Office for Older Americans is part of the Consumer Education and External Affairs Division within CFPB. That means that our work focuses on educating consumers and intermediaries and working to help protect older consumers from financial harm and to help people make good financial decisions. And many of our resources are targeted towards people age 62 and older, as well as financial caregivers or professionals who interact with older adults. Our office has resources mainly in English and Spanish, and we're planning to expand some of our resources into other widely spoken languages over time as well. So now I'd like to share some of our free resources that you can use in your work. These are our Managing Someone Else's Money guides, and these introduce critical concepts to financial caregivers, so agents under a power of attorney, guardians and conservators, trustees, and Social Security or Department of Veterans Affairs representatives. Many of the folks that you work with may either be serving as a financial caregiver in a formal or informal way for a loved one, or they may have a financial caregiver who is helping them. These guides can help answer many questions about someone's rights, responsibilities, and options as a financial caregiver. And the guides also provide resources where caregivers can get help with different situations. We have 6 state-specific guides. We have one for Georgia, Florida, Illinois, Arizona, Oregon, and Virginia. But if you do not live in one of those states where we already have a state-specific guide, we also have a tips and templates guide for adapting the guides to your own state. And we also have information to help organizations co-brand the guides with their organization's name. So you're welcome to co-brand these guides and share them in your community. These are wonderful guides to order in bulk. You can keep them at your desk or keep them at your home to give to people you work with, your family members, or to distribute in your community. And since so many of us are serving as financial caregivers in various capacities, many of us can use the information in these guides to help us make good financial decisions on behalf of our loved ones. You can order or download the free guides in either English or Spanish. The Money Smart for Older Adults curriculum is a scam awareness program that our office developed together with the FDIC. There are multiple components to this program. There's an instructor guide and a PowerPoint, which can be used to deliver presentations to groups. And there's also a resource guide that can be provided as a handout to groups or individuals. The instructor guide is fully scripted, so it has a corresponding PowerPoint that service providers or legal professionals, financial service professionals, community volunteers, or whoever is interested can download to support their presentations. It's a plug and play program, so the instructor guide can enable you to present this content in your community. You don't have to be an elder fraud expert because we provide you with all of the talking points and tools that you need to help get this important information out to older adults. You can even add your own notes to the curriculum about scams or fraud schemes that you're hearing about in your community to make sure that you're including any scams that are hitting close to home. And the instructor guide has activities, a summary and post-test, and an evaluation form. There's also a resource guide that I mentioned, which is designed more as a handout for people to take home with them. So you can provide that resource guide either as a supplement to your presentation, or you can just order copies and share them with your older clients or friends and family as a standalone resource. And that resource guide comes in 14-point font to make it a bit more accessible and readable. The resource guide has lots of information and activities to help people really learn and engage with the material, and also a glossary of key terms and resources on managing money and reporting scams. You can order all of these free materials, again, for free in bulk in English or Spanish. Next is our popular fraud prevention series. This helps you share important information about avoiding common scams. And last fall, we released brand new materials, including free bookmarks, posters, and table tents, all of which you can order for free. And many of these resources have word games or crossword puzzles or other interactive activities to really help people, again, engage with and learn those key concepts in fraud and scam prevention. I think these are fantastic to order for events or gatherings or group meals. You can also order them to display in your office. You can hand out the bookmarks to people, or you can share the materials at a local library or a community center or a faith-based organization. And you can also, again, download the electronic versions of the handouts to share maybe in an email newsletter on your website. I just want to show you one example. Oops. This is one in Spanish about romance scams, but we have tons of these different colorful and catchy materials. This one's a placemat. And again, they're all available in both English and Spanish. There we go. So this slide has our reverse mortgage resources, and we have different resources for different stages in the process of considering and maintaining a reverse mortgage. First is our Considering a Reverse Mortgage Guide. So that explains the basics of reverse mortgages for someone who's thinking about whether a reverse mortgage might be helpful for them. We also have a reverse mortgage discussion guide, which is created for housing counselors or other intermediaries to help people who are considering whether a reverse mortgage is right for them and help them think through that decision. And it has an overview, again, of the key concepts of these loans. You Have a Reverse Mortgage, Know Your Rights and Responsibilities is a new guide we recently released, and that's for people who already have a reverse mortgage and who need to understand what those ongoing responsibilities mean for them and their finances. Then last but not least, we also have a guide to natural disasters so that reverse mortgage borrowers can understand how to meet their loan obligations if they're experiencing a natural disaster like a flood, an earthquake, or even the pandemic. A lot of the concepts in this guide can be applied to folks who are experiencing financial challenges as a result of COVID-19. So please take a look at these guides on our website. And again, feel free to order copies to share with anyone you know who might be considering a reverse mortgage or who already has one and needs some help understanding what their responsibilities are. And these two are available in both English and Spanish. The next tool I'd like to share with you is an interactive online tool. It helps people think through the decision of when to claim Social Security. This tool lets you select different claiming ages so you can see how your estimated benefit will change depending on the age when you decide to start claiming Social Security. So it asks you to think about things like whether you're married, whether you plan to continue working into your 60s or 70s, whether you expect to have additional sources of retirement income, and other personal considerations. And then it gives you information that is specific to your situation so you can make that decision. The tool also will give you some next steps based on your situation that you can take to set yourself up for success in retirement. So there's an English and a Spanish version of this online tool. Another tool is our Financial Wellbeing Scale, and this allows consumers to answer 10 quick questions so you can measure your current financial well-being and see what steps you can take to improve it. So first, you answer the questions, then you get your score, and then the tool will give you steps that you can take to improve your financial well-being. So it may prompt you to think about the top money challenges or the top goals that you'd like to work on. And then it will give you resources that can help you take control of your day-to-day money management or get on track for your financial future and get personalized help to get you there. And you can also see how your score compares to other US adults from our national survey, which can be kind of interesting. And along with this consumer tool to measure financial well-being, we have several other resources. They include a guide for financial educators on how to use this tool with their clients. There's information and research that we've done about financial well-being. There's also a guide to the financial well-being scale and the importance of financial well-being. And then we also have results of our National Financial Well-Being Survey, which looks at how financial well-being varies among different groups of people. We also have some free guides that help consumers think through their financial decisions, like choosing a knowledgeable and trustworthy financial advisor, considering whether to take a pension lump sum payout, and other important financial considerations. Again, these are great to order, keep on hand, and hand out to people when they have questions about the issues that we cover in these guides. And these are also available in English and Spanish. We have consumer advisories on many other topics as well, things that people are really dealing with and sometimes could use a little bit of guidance on, like how to prepare your spouse or partner to manage family finances, how to avoid asset recovery scams, what to do when you're thinking about co-signing a student loan for a friend or family member, or what to do if you already have co-signed a loan, how to deal with medical debt, how to respond to debt collectors who are threatening to garnish your Social Security benefits. And again, you can order these in bulk and keep them at your desk or at your home to give out as needed, or you can hand them out at events like senior information fairs, fraud prevention seminars, luncheons, and more. And that is it for what I have to share with you today. I'd like to invite you to join our mailing list with our Office for Older Americans so that you can receive occasional alerts about blog posts, updates, and new resources that we come out with over time. And like I said, we're looking to expand some of our resources and potentially into other languages in addition to English and Spanish. So look for that in the future. And thank you so much for your time. I'm going to pass it over to Nelson to share some information about CFPB's resources for service members.
Thank you, Ms. Kramer. And let me turn it over to Mr. Kuradulu so that he can talk to us about the resources that flow through the Office of Service Member Affairs. You have control.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Kate. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nelson Kuradulu, and I'm with the Office of Service Member Affairs at the CFPB, as you just heard. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, and I'm going to take the next few minutes to give you just a short overview of OSA and some of the resources that we have to offer for consumers. So first, who are we? We are the Office of Service Member Affairs, or OSA as we're often called. OSA was established to serve and protect the needs of service members, veterans, and military families in the consumer marketplace. Now, every service member, veteran, and military family has a unique financial story. Our job is to listen to their issues, we analyze the problems they raise, we implement solutions where we can, and we serve as their voice here at the Bureau. Now, our mission has three central mandates. We educate and empower service members and their families to make better informed financial decisions regarding those consumer financial products and services that they use. We monitor and analyze consumer complaints submitted to the Bureau by service members and military families. And we also coordinate with other federal and state agencies regarding consumer protection measures for the military community. Okay. Now, a few years ago, we started taking a more holistic look at what service members, military families, and veterans experience during the course of their careers and the resources that they need to make better informed financial decisions at critical points along their consumer journey. It was all part of our plan and work to actually kind of create better resources for them. Now, that holistic approach led us to the development of our military and veteran consumer life cycle. Now, the Veteran and Consumer Life Cycle map that you see on your screen now identifies points in the military career beginning right at the signing of the enlistment contract at a recruiter's office, through basic training and advanced individual training, and all through the subsequent steps in both an individual and the family's military life and career, right up until retirement, and in some cases, even after. Now, service members can use the map to find links to resources at critical points along the map to help them at that stage of their career find what they need, and maybe use some of our resources to help them along. Now, this holistic approach, it affords us as an office an opportunity for even greater collaboration within the Bureau with other offices, and also with our valued partners at the federal, state, and local government levels to take actions on issues and create resources that educate and empower the military community. Now, we're currently in the process of actually re-examining this life cycle map to ensure that we're covering the right touch points and providing the most needed resources for service members, veterans, and their families. So if you're on our website and you see the life cycle map and you have an idea of something we can add, or something you think we should change, or something that you think is critically important that we should tell the military community, we're always open to hearing from consumers about what we can improve. Okay, second, what resources do we offer? Now, no matter what their level of experience, service members and military families are out there right now making important financial decisions, like buying homes and cars, using credit, paying for college, or just making everyday purchases. Now, the Bureau, we have consumer tools and online educational resources that can help them help them improve their money management skills, understand financial products, plan for big purchases, also navigate purchases as they're going through them, and just in general make more informed financial decisions about those everyday money choices that they make. Now, the Bureau's tools were created to help consumers with things, as I said, like buying a home, paying for college, getting an auto loan, which for service members is usually their first big purchase after joining the military, preparing for disasters and emergencies, which after the last 18 months, most of us realize that we're not always as prepared as we should be for. We have tools to help children learn about money, plan for retirement, and more. Now, along with some of the resources that you've heard for renters and about housing insecurity, the Bureau has also created an entire webpage dedicated to highlighting COVID-19 resources that consumers can use to protect themselves and their finances during the ongoing pandemic. The page hosts information on a number of topics that you've already heard about, such as mortgages and housing assistance, student loans, and avoiding scams. For service members specifically, the page also lists information and links to a host of resources that service members can use to access and get immediate help, financial help if they need, but also to maintain their long-term financial well-being during the pandemic. These resources are spread over a couple different federal agencies, so it's really great to kind of have them listed all in one place. Fortunately, a lot of service members, by nature of what they do, have been inoculated from some of the worst of the pandemic, but that's not always the case with military spouses. So this page can be really helpful to help point them towards some resources. Now, service members can also browse a database that we have called Ask CFPB, which is a database of question and money answers on topics commonly asked about financial questions. They can learn about financial basics, from everything like what is APR, to understand key terms, to much more involved financial questions and answers. I believe the last time I checked, we were up to something like 1,100 questions and answers. So it's a really great consumer tool for people to use. Now, for young service members, Misadventures in Money Management is our flagship online educational product. It was designed to immerse young service members in real-life financial scenarios like marriage, deployment, permanent change of station, and not just those scenarios, but their consequences of their choices in those scenarios. So it offers interactive training on topics such as the importance of building savings, how to avoid impulse purchases, how debt can affect the military career, and protections under the Service Member Civil Relief Act and other military consumer laws. Now, one of the unique features of MIM is that it provides service members with a learning environment using the latest interactive gaming techniques. Now, if you know a young person or have a teenager at home, you know how important gaming it can be now for that demographic. So this is a really great tool built to actually talk to them and interest them in things that they are already doing. MIM allows each user to customize their learning experience with 6 individual characters. You can see them on your screen now: Cruz, Angela, James, Maya, Dirk, and Xavier. There's also a new 7th character recently added named Sonia, whose learning experiences revolve around the military family and those financial issues that affect military families. The program is free and currently available for use by all U.S. military service members, including the Guard and Reserve at mim.gov. And military families can just go directly to mim.gov/families to play the family module. So you heard earlier from Carmen about our Your Money, Your Goal guides. We've also released a new Your Money, Your Goals companion guide specifically for service members and military families. Now, as I said earlier, military life comes with unique financial challenges. This companion guide includes tools specifically specifically designed to address common financial challenges that military consumers face. So it's really helpful for military consumers to just use themselves, or if you're a financial counselor or a service provider of some kind, to actually use with your military clients to start important money conversations. Now, there's also an array of other resources that you can download or order from the link that you can see at the bottom of the slide right now. And they include a fact sheets and publications, such as a fact sheet on tackling student loan debt, a debt collection fact sheet on knowing your rights when you're dealing with debt collectors, a fact sheet on tools to help safeguard you against financial fraud, a tip sheet, a fact sheet on tips about how to pick a bank that best works for you and your military needs. Most people assume that, a bank is a bank is a bank, but that's not necessarily the case. Specifically, if you're a service member and you have a bank that may provide you certain resources or tools and features here, but you may not necessarily have access to those same features if you're stationed in Germany or Okinawa or someplace overseas or in a combat zone. So being able to pick the right military bank for you is incredibly important for service members, and this fact sheet gives you tips for that. We also have a fact sheet on the Military Lending Act. Now, if you're not familiar with it, the Military Lending Act is one of the two big laws, along with the Service Member Civil Relief Act, that dictates consumer protections and interest rate caps for service members and their families on loans and other consumer products. So we have this great fact sheet that you can download that kind of breaks down for you what are your rights under the Military Lending Act. We also have an MLA, Military Lending Act flowchart, for financial counselors and legal service providers. They can kind of follow through to see if something or a financial product or service aligns with the Military Lending Act or it doesn't, so that you can advise your clients better. We also have similar fact sheets for the Service Member Civil Relief Act as well. Now we have a number of postcard tip sheets on certain products. We have a postcard tip sheet that addresses issues with GI Bill and higher education marketing, which is a big thing for service members with the GI Bill benefits. There's sometimes they get marketed to join schools, to sign for schools or programs that don't necessarily work best for them or may not be giving them the value for their benefit money. So this little tip sheet offers tips to how to avoid scams or improper marketing. We have a similar postcard tip sheet for mortgage advertisements. And also for older veterans, this is a similar publication for VA aid and attendance benefits. And we also have resources created specifically when we talk about older Americans for older veterans to address issues that they face and also educate them about fraud that they may be more prone to experience as older consumers. Finally, excuse me, I want to let you all know that we're in the process of translating many of these resources I just covered into Spanish and other languages so that military consumers and their families can have greater access to all this information and resources. And that's about in a nutshell for the Office of Service Member Affairs. Please feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or comments about what we do, the resources we offer the military community, or how we can support you in any way as you reach out to service members, veterans, and their military families. And with that, I will pass it on to my colleague, Leslie Jones. Leslie?
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. You can let us know about how we can talk to our kids about money.
Yes, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So to understand youth financial capability, the CFPB researched adult financial well-being. So let me ask you a question. What messages about money did you receive as a child from adults? Think about that. What messages about money did you receive as a child from adults? Our research led us to understand the following. These three building blocks of youth financial capability. They are to have, kids need to have executive functioning skills, our children need to have financial habits and norms, and they need to have financial knowledge and decision-making skills. So for example, executive functioning skills are that self-control, planning, problem-solving skills, that ability to tell yourself no. It starts in early childhood, or at least we can start building it in early childhood and start working with our 3 to 5-year-olds. But let me be clear, executive functioning skills are skills that we can learn to reinforce over our entire lifetime. For example, for those of us that had to master social distancing over the last few months or the last year, we've had to reinforce our executive functioning skills. All right, the second skill is financial habits and norms. And this skill are rules of thumb for managing your money. It's when you pay bills, you probably pay at the beginning of the month or end of the month or middle of the month, or when you get the bill in the mail. You have a rule of thumb for it, and it's how it helps you navigate your financial world. You might also have rules of thumb for giving to charity or tipping. Those all help you survive. Now, for financial knowledge and decision-making skills, those are the things that we teach, and we teach well. They are, and the Bureau just wants to reinforce comparison shopping skills because those are critically important, and the ability to understand what a trusted resource looks like. I just want to also add on one other piece, in that when we're working with kids, helping them build their financial habits and norms, especially at that middle childhood time, ages 6 to 12, it's important to realize that their financial habits and norms are probably going to be different than their family's financial habits and norms. And so they really need to understand what the options are out there for them in order to figure out what works best for them. Ask yourself, do you manage money the same way as your family, your siblings, and your parents? If the answer is no, not really, then you'll understand the importance of helping kids understand and develop their own individual financial habits and norms. All right, so, oops, let me go back one. Okay, money as you grow. This is one of the areas that we have of our website that contain activities and conversation starters that parents and caregivers can use to build a child's financial literacy skills at all age levels. And so if you've ever said to yourself, I really want to help my child build financial literacy skills, but I just don't know how, this gives you the core of how to do it. It's built on our building blocks of financial capability. We help develop their, or really help them develop executive functioning skills, build their money habits and values, and practice their money skills and decision-making skills. One of the tools that we have in this toolbox are the Money as You Grow bookshelf lists, probably is the best way to call it. Because storytelling is a classic technique used to teach concepts, rules, and ideas, listed on this page are classic books along with newer stories that can be used to teach financial habits, norms, rules of thumb that others use. And highlighting some of the books, the Berenstain Bears Trouble with Money, Curious George Saves His Pennies. We have 2 Spanish language titles. We also have one story that's about a Native American family and another story that's about a Chinese American family. What goes along with this list of books that you can commonly find in a library, both public and school libraries, is our parent guides. These Money as You Grow parent guides support the reading of these books by helping parents and caregivers understand the key financial literacy topics in the book, give them some suggestions of things to read, some things to talk about, some things that they can do to extend the learning. So we very much recommend ordering these to be passed out to encourage families to read with their children, especially in some place where these books are available. You can also find youth financial literacy activities that you can do with K through 12. We have these activities for educators who are not experienced financial education teachers, but want to get started teaching financial literacy. There are 268 activities. There's 15-minute activities, 45-minute activities, and 80-minute activities. They're all free. There's a teacher guide. Sometimes there's student worksheets. Sometimes they're to be completed online. Sometimes they're to be completed in person. If they are to be completed online, then the handout is a fillable PDF, so the student can complete it right there on their computer. And these activities look like this in terms of giving you the details. They give you the big idea. They give you essential questions, objectives, and what this child will do. And this is an example of one, and it's for protecting your Social Security number. With this one, you would do it with a child, if you were going to try to work with them on identity theft, fraud, taxes, making sure they understand the importance of protecting their Social Security numbers and their other private information. An example of a question is, if somebody uses my Social Security number, I'll find out right away. And the answer to that is false. You may not find out until until you look at your credit report and you see what's been done with your Social Security number. And it can be an individual activity or group work, however you want to work with the child. One of the things I wanted to point out today is that we've taken 12 of our financial literacy activities and we've made them available in Spanish. We have several for grades 9 through 12. We have 3 available for grades 6 through 12, and we have 2 that are available for the K5 group. And just to, if you ask her, why did we pick these activities? We selected these activities because they're 12 of our most popular activities. And when you're using our filter tool system that I showed you earlier, you choose the activity type available in Spanish and they'll all show up. And then you can select from there if you'd like to see the teacher guide and student handouts available in Spanish as well as available in English. And I'm going to skip this next one. The other thing I want to mention with the story time that we were talking about, we have 7 storybooks for grades K through 5 about a group of creatures called the Money Monsters. They're stories that teach financial literacy, is when you have the knowledge and skills to make money choices that are right for you. The Money Monster stories introduce students to ideas, habits, and activities that they'll need as they grow up to start managing their own money. And I think we have 5 of the books. We have a chapter book that just got released about a month ago, and that is on Money Monsters starting their own business, and another one on Money Monsters Learn About Giving. So those are 2 titles. The Learn About Giving will be out in another like 2 or 3 weeks. So keep your eye out for the extra Money Monster stories. And these can be ordered as booklets, and I want to show you where you can order them. And here they are. On our bulk publication site, you can order the Money Monster stories to be delivered to you at your home. We also have bookmarks, we have posters like understanding credit scores, learning about coins and dollar bills, and what's your money style and how to read a pay stub. And we also have stickers that are available. So if you haven't visited our bulk publication site, I know my colleagues have given you other reasons to visit, and these are some of the youth financial education reasons to visit. Thank you very much for your time today, and I'll turn this over, I think, is it back to Nelson?
To Linda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I would definitely be ordering the Money Monster books for my grandkids. Okay, a very special thanks to the CFPB team for those awesome presentations. Please join me in sending them the love for the great information. Now I'm going to turn the controls over to Nelson so we can take a few questions. Nelson, are you there?
Yes, do you hear me okay?
I hear you fine.
Oh, great. Well, we do have a couple questions. Somebody's asking if there's, we were talking about forbearance earlier, and for people who are able to get back on track, do you have any information on whether the education on budgeting, money management has helped them get back on track? Does anyone have any kind of research or know of research around that?
Hi, this is Jessica. That's a great question, and I'll also let my colleagues jump in as well, who do some of the other additional education resources. But yeah, so that's a good question. I would say I don't have that specific data point. What I can tell you is that people who exited forbearance a while ago, say at the 3-month or 6-month mark, last summer or last fall, they tended to get back on track much more easily. Often they, sort of refinance, or they actually just kind of got forbearance because they were nervous about their job, but ended up being okay and actually kept making payments. So for those folks, I think the data showed that they were much more able to get back on track. And I don't know if I could find the slide on it, but the slide where you see the forbearance options that people chose, you can see they kind of start there. And then, but at this point, I would say most of the people who are exiting, a large portion of them are ones who really did need the help and may, sort of haven't been making their payments all along and things like that. As far as whether for those folks who did get back on track, how our resources played a role in that, I wish I had that data, but because of a variety of privacy reasons, we tend not to track that kind of information.
Great, thank you. And if anyone has questions, do feel free to type them in now. We'll try to get to as many as we can. We are running a little bit late, but we do want to get some of these questions in. Somewhat related, related to the government, the mortgage programs, is the USDA mortgage program, is that something that could be included in the list that was mentioned earlier about the different options? Do you have?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, sorry, I jumped in too early. Go ahead.
No, please go ahead. If you had any information, or if that's something that maybe you can include in the future, or you have somewhere else more information about that.
Yeah, that's a great point. So yes, when I say government programs, here government-backed is a little broader than normal. So that includes the DSCs, Fannie and Freddie, FHA, VA, and USDA. So USDA is absolutely a part of that. It's a smaller program, so we get fewer questions on it, but that's a great one. And if you do go to our website, there are certain places where we'll actually break it down by the type of mortgage that you have. And so we'll link where appropriate to the USDA website, or even we've had our USDA colleagues draft up some language for us to pop in there, so you can see what's applicable there.
Great, thank you. Another question that we received, and this is maybe a little bit too specific, but perhaps you can suggest where they should turn for help. They described a case where a person immediately after her forbearance on her loan, immediately after starting forbearance, the loan was sold to another company. And then the loan apparently went from an FHA loan to a conventional loan, followed by higher monthly payments. Is that type of change legal? Should that have happened that way?
Sorry, can you say that one more time? I just want to make sure I understand.
So let me just read it specifically. We had a person call our agency to state that immediately after her forbearance was secured, I guess her loan was sold to another company, and the loan went from FHA to conventional, and then they had to pay higher monthly payments without approval. Is this type of change legal? Do you know anything about this kind of situation?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question. So I'll say a couple things. One is that I would certainly feel free to encourage folks when they have like specific things like that to either file a complaint with us and reach out to a housing counselor if that's helpful. Regarding that specific instance, it sounds like there's a couple things going on. One is there's a servicing transfer where who you have to make the payment to changes. That is legal. And unfortunately, that's not something the borrower really has any control over. In terms of it changing from an FHA loan to a conventional, there are some instances where that I'm less familiar with. So maybe if I could just get that question emailed to us and we can follow up on that specific piece of it, because I'd hate to give the wrong answer on that.
That's fine. I'll try to capture that. And if we don't, whoever submitted that question, you can resubmit it by email too, and we'll get it to our CFPB team to help us. And another question here related to the books for kids or the materials for children. What is the target grade for the Money Monsters booklets?
So Leslie had to jump off, but we can get that information if you send me that question.
Okay, great. That's fine. And then we have another question here. A little bit, I know the different types of homeowner assistance was mentioned. Is there other relief that is coming down the line? Are we waiting for more information about perhaps financial relief for homeowners or anything besides forbearance or anything?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can take that. So there is the Housing Assistance Fund that I sort of mentioned very briefly in the beginning. That's a program that's run by Treasury, and it's sort of less far along than, well, it's definitely less far along in terms of distributing funds than the rental side. But as I said, there are billions of dollars allocated for that. And we'll be hopefully hearing more and posting more about that soon. But right now, I would say if people are interested, they can go to the Treasury and look at the Housing Assistance Fund. But that's something the CFPB is actively working on, but we haven't published much on it.
Hey, Nelson, this is
Yes.
Carmen Cruz. I have the answer to the question about the Money Monsters.
Oh, great, thanks. Peter,
So
go
for
ahead.
the storybooks, it's K through 5, and for the chapter books, it's 4th grade through 7th grade.
Excellent. Thank you for responding to that. And then just because I think that some of the people on the attending today may want to know, do you work with community organizations around the country if, say, they wanted to invite you to speak to their network partners about information like this today? Or I don't know if you even do direct to client presentations. Is there that kind of a service that the CFPB does, or a way to find out more?
Yes, this is Carmen Cruz. We do work with people and their networks. There are times we can do direct to consumers, it would just depend on, the scenario. So I encourage them to reach out to us and we can talk about what types of events we would be able to participate in.
Hi, this is
Okay.
Nelson.
Yes, go ahead.
We just to co-sign on the information Carmen just gave. The Office of Service Member Affairs also does the same thing. We work partner with a number of groups, military service organizations and veteran services organizations. We also give presentations and briefings on bases around the country. So if there is a community group that specifically speaks or reaches out or works with military family members or veterans on a number of issues, we're definitely always up to give a presentation. Obviously, we're not traveling as much as we used to because of COVID. I don't think anyone is. However, any way possible that we can support, we're always willing to support. So as Carmen said, feel free to reach out to us and we will see what we can do in terms of briefing or presentation support.
Excellent. Thank you, Nelson. And then some kudos here. Somebody says here they love misadventures in money management. They work in San Francisco and they've used it in classes for veterans. And they find the information provided today invaluable. So wanted you guys to hear those kudos. And then a couple more questions. Do you have to be a service member to use the misadventures in money management? Is one of them.
Actually, interesting enough, you do not. So it was initially created for young service members in the delayed entry program. For those of you not familiar with the delayed entry program, it's a program that the DoD started. I mean, it's actually been going on for, let's say, 30, 40 years now, in which young recruits who sign up for the military, primarily after high school, can spend a couple of months at home, and anywhere from 2 weeks to a couple of months at home, training while waiting to leave for basic training. So it was created for these young people who aren't in the military yet, who are getting a sense of what it means to be in the military, but haven't gone through training yet. And a lot of them are kind of financial novices who don't have a lot of financial experience. So that actually kind of applies to a lot of people, both 18 and younger, and some people who are older who just don't have great money experience or have learned a lot of financial lessons, but the wrong lessons. So yes, it was created primarily for a military group or military focus group, but anyone can go on and use MIM. It's a really great program and it's great financial education.
Great, thank you. Another question related to forbearance. I'll just read it here. It says, is forbearance available to individuals in states with COVID vaccine mandates, but an approved objection to it?
So forbearance does not depend on any kind of vaccine stuff. It's a completely different thing. So it really if you're, it really just depends on, do you have a federally backed loan or do you have a privately backed loan? That's what determines your option. But either way, people should reach out to their servicer to find out what they qualify for.
Excellent. So there's no bearing on that. That's good to know. And then just to see the general question, I think, can other financial skills coaching providers use these tools to coach others? Can any coach, anyone doing financial coaching out there use these tools? Or do they have to be nonprofits or any limitations? Did you all hear the question, or maybe Carmen?
I did not hear the question.
Can any financial skills or coaching providers use these tools as they coach others? Are there any limitations? Does somebody have to be a nonprofit? Can anybody use this? Anyone coaching?
Anyone coaching can use these. These are free to every American.
That's fantastic. And that's it for questions. I'll turn it back over to you, Linda. Thank you, speakers, for those responses.
Thank you, Nelson. And again, a very special thanks to all of our presenters. You rock. Thank you for all of that great information. This webinar was presented as part of the Consumer Action Money Management Project. If you're interested in contributing to consumer action, you can do so online by credit card. You can use PayPal, or you can mail a check to the address on the screen. Consumer action. Attention membership giving, 57 Post Street, 6111, San Francisco, California, 94104. And the webinar is being recorded. If you missed something and you would like to go back and review, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's free, and by subscribing, you will help us continue to do these fantastic webinars. Again, a very special thanks to our amazing panel. Please join me in sending them the love. Uh, CFPB team, you rock. Don't forget to register to join us for our 50th. Check your inbox for upcoming webinars. We're hosting a few free webinars every month for the rest of the year, so buckle up and get ready. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month, and please show some support for breast cancer and domestic violence awareness. Until I get to see you in person again, stay safe, and I hope to see you soon. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.